Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life. The air was thick with anticipation as shadows gathered around the hidden underground arena. Men shouted, money exchanged hands, and the smell of sweat and smoke filled the air. Tonight wasn't just about entertainment, it was about survival. On one side of the ring stood a young man full of arrogance. His smirk was sharp, his body tense, and every word from his mouth was meant to provoke. He laughed, mocked the crowd, and even pointed at his opponent with disdain. He believed he was untouchable, destined to win before the fight had even begun. But across from him stood someone completely unexpected. An old man staggering slightly, clothes torn, the smell of alcohol surrounding him. The crowd erupted in laughter. "This is the opponent? A drunk old fool?" they shouted. To them, it was already decided. The arrogant bully would crush him within seconds. What nobody knew was that this forgotten old man carried a secret, one that would change the course of the night forever. The underground arena was not a place for the weak-hearted. It wasn't about honor nor about fair competition. It was about survival, humiliation, and money. The fighters weren't free to quit or walk away. A thick elastic band was tied tightly around their waists, forcing them into each other's reach. There was no escape, no room to breathe. The rules were simple, yet merciless. You win only when your opponent cannot stand again. No referee to stop the fight, no compassion to protect the broken. If one man collapsed, the crowd roared. If one man begged for mercy, the answer was laughter. Here, weakness was unforgivable. The bully thrived in this place. His confidence was fed by cruelty. He enjoyed watching others suffer. To him, the fight was already won. He tightened his fists and stared at the old man like a predator circling fragile prey. Meanwhile, the crowd mocked and jeered. "End it quickly," they shouted. "Teach him a lesson." The old man seemed barely able to stand, swaying under the dim lights, his head drooping, as if the alcohol in his veins was heavier than his opponent's fists. But what no one realized was that behind those unsteady steps, behind those half-closed eyes, there was something dangerous, something unpredictable, waiting to be unleashed. The young fighter stepped forward with the confidence of a king. His muscles flexed under the dim lights, his smirk widening as he circled the old man. Every movement screamed superiority. He raised his arms to the crowd, drinking in their cheers, as if he had already secured victory before a single punch was thrown. He mocked his opponent openly, pointing at the frail figure swaying before him. "Is this all you've got?" he laughed. The crowd echoed his arrogance, some even tossing coins on the ground, betting the fight would be over in less than a minute. The old man, however, did not react. He simply staggered, his steps uneven, his gaze unfocused. To the untrained eye, he looked pitiful, a man broken by years of drinking, dragged into a fight he could not possibly win. But in the silence of his stillness, there was something unsettling, something the bully was too blind to see. The arrogance of the young man blinded him to the danger right in front of him, and as the crowd cheered for his certain victory, fate was quietly preparing the stage for his downfall. He looked like nothing more than a shadow of his former self. His clothes were ragged, his hair unkempt, and his body swayed as if it could give out at any moment. The smell of alcohol followed him like a curse, and the crowd sneered with disgust. "He's already drunk," someone shouted. "This fight is a joke." The laughter spread, cruel and merciless, echoing through the arena walls. To them, this old man was not a fighter. He was entertainment, a clown to be beaten for their amusement. Yet, behind those heavy eyes and that unsteady walk, a fire still burned. It wasn't visible to the crowd, nor to the arrogant young man standing across from him. But deep inside, the old man carried scars of battles long forgotten, memories of nights spent training, of fists hardened by years of discipline, of techniques learned from masters who valued patience over pride. He didn't shout. He didn't provoke. He simply stood there, swaying, letting everyone believe he was weak, because weakness, when played well, could be the most dangerous mask of all. The signal was given, and the fight began. The bully lunged forward with explosive energy, fists swinging with the confidence of someone who had never truly been challenged. Each punch cut through the air, fast, sharp, and merciless. The old man staggered back, his steps uneven, almost collapsing under the first blow. The crowd erupted in laughter and cheers. To them, the end was already written. They shouted for the young fighter to finish it quickly, to humiliate his opponent and give them the spectacle they came for. But something strange began to happen. Each time the bully struck, the old man bent, swayed, or stumbled just out of reach. His movements looked clumsy, even ridiculous, but somehow the punches never landed cleanly. His body seemed to flow like water, falling when it needed to fall, leaning when it needed to lean. The bully grew impatient, throwing heavier blows, certain that his strength would crush the fragile figure before him. Yet the old man remained standing, smiling faintly, as if the chaos around him was nothing more than a drunken dance. What the crowd didn't realize was that the fight had truly just begun. The bully's fists kept flying, each one meant to break bones and crush pride. The sound of knuckles slicing the air echoed through the arena, and the crowd roared with every attempt. Yet, to their growing surprise, the old man didn't fall. Instead, he laughed. A low, raspy chuckle at first, then louder, rolling through the air like a taunt no one expected. His body wobbled, his steps looked clumsy, and to the untrained eye, he seemed seconds away from collapse. But the more the bully attacked, the more the old man's laughter grew. This unnerved the arrogant fighter. His smirk began to fade, replaced by confusion and frustration. How could this frail drunkard mock him in the middle of battle? The crowd, too, began to change their tone. The laughter in the stands grew uneasy. Whispers spread. Was this old fool simply insane, or was he hiding something? Every stagger, every sway, every laugh was not weakness. It was control. The bully didn't know it yet, but he was walking straight into a trap. The arena was alive with chaos. Men pounded their fists against the wooden rails, women shouted curses, and money passed from hand to hand as bets climbed higher. They weren't here for comedy. They wanted blood. End him now, they screamed at the bully. Knock the old fool down. The chant grew louder, a wave of voices pressing down on the fighters. The crowd was restless, thirsty for violence, impatient to see the arrogant young man crush his fragile opponent. The bully fed on their energy. Fueled by pride and rage, he struck harder, faster, trying to end the fight quickly and claim his glory. Sweat dripped from his face, his breathing grew heavier, but his determination to humiliate the old man only intensified. Meanwhile, the old man swayed, dodging by inches, slipping past fists with movements that seemed too clumsy to be intentional. To the untrained eye, he was barely surviving, but to those who looked closer, there was rhythm in his steps, precision in his stumbles, and calculation behind every awkward move. The crowd believed they were watching a slaughter. In truth, they were watching the birth of a storm. At first glance, the old man's movement seemed meaningless, stumbling, tripping, swaying like a leaf caught in the wind. The crowd laughed, the bully mocked, convinced they were watching a pathetic show. But beneath the chaos, there was a rhythm. Every fall was controlled. Every stagger placed him just outside the reach of a fist. His body bent and twisted in ways that deflected power, turning the bully's strength into wasted energy. It wasn't drunkenness. It was mastery. The bully grew irritated. He swung harder, his arms heavy with frustration, but the old man's swaying seemed to absorb every strike. His laughter rang out again, echoing through the arena, cutting into the young fighter's pride. Slowly, whispers began to spread through the crowd. Wait, is this a technique? Some had heard of it, spoken only in stories. The Drunken Eight Immortals, a fighting style that turned chaos into control, weakness into deadly power. The bully didn't realize it yet, but he was no longer in control of the fight. The old man had already taken the rhythm into his own hands. The bully charged again, his fists clenched with fury, his pride burning hotter than his strength. He swung a powerful punch straight at the old man's face, a blow that could have ended the fight in a single strike. But in that instant, the old man's body bent unnaturally, swaying as if he were about to collapse. The punch sliced through empty air. With a sudden twist, the drunkard's arm shot forward, his knuckles striking the bully's jaw with a sharp, precise snap. The crowd gasped. The arena fell silent for the first time that night. The bully stumbled backward, stunned, his arrogance shattered for a brief moment. He touched his face in disbelief, unable to understand how the frail old man had landed a clean hit. The old man didn't gloat. He simply chuckled, swayed back on his feet, and took another sip from the invisible bottle only he could taste. To him, it wasn't a victory. It was only the beginning of a lesson the bully would never forget. The sound of that punch echoed longer than it should have. For a moment, the underground arena, once filled with roars and laughter, was silent. Every eye was fixed on the arrogant bully, who now stood shaken, his jaw throbbing, his confidence cracked. Whispers cut through the silence. "Did you see that? The old man hit him. How is that possible?" The mocking laughter that once filled the room was replaced with uneasy murmurs. The bully's pride burned hotter than the pain in his face. His nostrils flared, his fists tightened, and humiliation spread across his features. He wasn't just fighting for money anymore. He was fighting to protect the image he had built, the arrogance he had lived by. Across from him, the old man simply swayed, his drunken smile never fading. To him, nothing had changed. He looked as fragile and foolish as before, yet his presence now carried a weight the crowd could feel. The silence wasn't weakness, it was respect. And respect, once born, cannot be ignored. Humiliation twisted the young fighter's face. His pride had been wounded in front of everyone, and pride was the only thing he truly valued. With a furious roar, he charged forward, fists flying like hammers. Each strike carried not just strength but desperation. The crowd cheered again, feeding his fury. They wanted to see the old man crushed, broken under the weight of youth and power. But anger makes a fighter reckless. His punches grew wild, his guard dropped, and his breathing turned heavy as he wasted energy in a storm of blind rage. The old man did not resist with brute force. He stumbled back, leaned sideways, twisted his body in strange angles, every movement awkward, yet perfectly timed. The bully's fists hit nothing but air, his attacks absorbed by emptiness. And then, between two missed punches, the old man laughed again. That drunken chuckle, sharp and mocking, stabbed deeper than any fist. It told the bully and the crowd alike, "You still don't understand who controls this fight." The bully's rage only fueled his downfall. Every punch he threw was met not with resistance, but with a sway, a stumble, a fall that wasn't a fall at all. To the crowd, the old man looked like he was about to collapse, yet somehow he always found balance at the last second. His arms dangled loosely, his steps zigzagged across the arena, but within that chaos was rhythm. A rhythm older than the bully, older than the crowd's laughter, the hidden pulse of a secret art. Some of the older men in the stands leaned forward, their eyes widening. They had heard rumors, whispered stories of a forgotten technique. The Drunken 8 Immortals, a style so unpredictable that no opponent could anticipate its movements, a style that used weakness as a weapon, turning staggering steps into lethal strikes. And now, before their eyes, the old man revealed it. His sways became dodges, his slips became counters. His drunken laughter became the heartbeat of a deadly dance. The bully didn't realize it yet, but he was no longer the hunter. He was the prey. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the shift they couldn't quite explain. The bully, once full of confidence, was now drenched in sweat. His punches slowed, his breathing grew heavy, and the arrogance in his eyes was replaced with frustration. The old man, on the other hand, looked almost playful. His staggered steps circled the arena, his body loose, his laughter sharp. Every failed strike from the bully fed his confidence, while draining the spirit of the younger fighter. Then it happened. The bully lunged recklessly, throwing all his weight into a wild punch. The old man swayed sideways, letting the blow sail past, and in one fluid motion, his fist shot forward. The sound of knuckles cracking against flesh filled the air as his punch landed squarely on the bully's ribs. The young fighter gasped, his body folding under the blow. Pain flashed across his face. The crowd erupted, some in shock, some in awe. The tide had turned. For the first time, the bully realized he wasn't in control anymore. The bully staggered back, clutching his ribs, his breath short and shallow. The pain was undeniable, but worse than that was the fear creeping into his eyes. For the first time, he looked at the old man not as a joke, but as a threat. The crowd was split in two, half still shouting for the bully to finish it, half now whispering in disbelief at the strength of the drunkard. The atmosphere shifted from laughter to tension, every soul waiting for what would happen next. The bully roared, trying to mask his fear with anger, and charged forward one last time. But the old man had already measured him, already mapped out every reckless move. With a sudden twist, his body swayed aside, his foot dragging in the dirt, and then the fist came crashing down. It wasn't just a punch. It was the kind of strike forged through years of hidden training, sharpened by patience, disguised in weakness. The blow connected with brutal precision to the bully's jaw. The sound was sharp, final. The young fighter's body lifted off the ground for a split second before crashing down like a fallen tree. The arena froze. The young fighter lay sprawled on the ground, his body motionless, his pride shattered. The arrogant smirk that had carried him into the arena was gone, replaced by the blank stare of defeat. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, but his spirit had already been broken. The crowd gasped in unison. Moments earlier, they had laughed at the idea of the old man even surviving a single round. Now they stared at the impossible, the arrogant bully, struck down by the one everyone had mocked. The old man stood above him, swaying slightly, his lips curling into a faint smile. He looked less like a drunken fool and more like a ghost from another era, a warrior who had chosen this moment to remind the world of his strength. The silence stretched, heavy and undeniable. For the first time, the underground arena had witnessed not just a fight, but a lesson. For a long moment, no one moved. The underground arena, once a storm of noise, had fallen into complete silence. The sound of the bully's body hitting the ground still echoed in everyone's ears. Men who moments ago were shouting bets now stood frozen. Women who laughed at the old man's clumsy steps now covered their mouths in disbelief. The air was heavy, charged with shock. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. The bully was the favorite, the strong one, the arrogant youth who mocked weakness. And yet, there he was, sprawled on the floor, defeated by a single devastating punch. The old man stood quietly, his chest rising with calm breaths, his eyes half closed as if he was still drunk. He didn't raise his arms in victory, didn't shout to the crowd. He simply swayed, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But in that silence, respect was born. And once respect takes root, it cannot be ignored. The silence broke into a wave of voices, but this time, not laughter. Whispers spread through the arena like wildfire. How did he do that? Was that luck? No, that was skill. Bets were forgotten, coins slipped from trembling hands, and eyes widened in disbelief. Many had mocked the old man, calling him useless, a fool, a drunk. Now those same mouths struggled to accept what they had seen with their own eyes. The bully, once the symbol of youth and arrogance, lay on the ground, unable to rise, and the one they laughed at, the one they underestimated, now stood as the victor. Some spectators clapped softly at first, hesitant, almost afraid to break the tension. Then the applause grew louder, spreading across the arena until the walls shook with the sound. It wasn't just applause for a fight, it was respect for the man who defied every expectation. The forgotten old man had become unforgettable. As the applause echoed through the arena, whispers grew louder, forming a single truth the crowd could no longer deny. This man was no ordinary drunk. His swaying, his laughter, his staggering steps, it was all part of a greater design. Old fighters in the audience nodded with recognition. They had heard legends of a forgotten art, the Drunken Eight Immortals, a style that turned weakness into strength, unpredictability into power. Tonight, those rumors had come alive before their eyes. The bully had never stood a chance. His arrogance blinded him, his strength betrayed him, and his pride left him open to the very technique he had mocked. The old man, dismissed as fragile and worthless, had hidden the heart of a true master all along. What had looked like foolishness was wisdom. What had looked like weakness was strength. And the truth now stood undeniable. The forgotten old man had never been forgotten by destiny. In every fight, there is more than fists and blood. There is meaning. That night, the underground arena became more than a place of violence. It became a stage for a lesson carved deep into everyone's memory. Arrogance is blind. The young fighter believed muscles and pride made him invincible. He mocked weakness, laughed at age, and trusted only in his own strength. But strength without wisdom is fragile. Pride without humility leads to downfall. The old man carried no pride to protect, no image to maintain. His power was hidden, disguised in laughter and staggering steps. And because of that, he was underestimated. And because of that, he triumphed. The crowd left with more than a story. They left with a reminder: never judge by appearances, and never underestimate those who seem small, weak, or forgotten. For sometimes, the greatest strength is hidden in the most unlikely of vessels. The bully never forgot the taste of that night, not the pain in his jaw nor the sting of humiliation. But for the crowd, the story became legend. They spoke of the evening when arrogance was silenced and respect was reborn with a single punch. The old man never claimed glory. He didn't lift his arms in victory or demand praise. He simply staggered away, as if he were still drunk, disappearing into the shadows like a ghost. Yet, his presence lingered in every heart. The forgotten had become unforgettable. His legacy was not written in trophies or riches, but in the lesson he carved into the minds of all who witnessed. True strength hides in humility, and sometimes the weakest mask guards the most dangerous power. So now we leave you with a question. Have you already liked this video, shared it with someone who needs this message, and subscribed to the channel? Don't wait. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. Because, just like that old man, the next twist might be waiting where no one expects it.